Hello friends, welcome to our channel, new NBA USA friends. On this trade, did you get fleeced? What do you make of this? Well, that's what today's video is for, but I'm going to save that for later in the video because we actually have another breaking trade to talk about. Jesus Luzardo, he's no longer a Marlin. Jesus is a Philadelphia Philly, but let's talk about what Miami got in return. Before we talk about Luzardo, going to Philly, buying a hat for every team in baseball has been the greatest investment I've ever made. All right, let's talk about the Marlins. Why does it look like someone was drooling on my hat? What is going on? All right, that looks a little bit better. But let's talk about the full trade for starting pitcher Jesus Luzardo, the Marlins. They are trying to acquire almost every prospect in baseball. It seems like they are picking up two prospects from the Phillies. The first one, 19-year-old shortstop, Starlin Caba or Caba. I don't exactly know how to say his whole name because I just found out he existed 5 seconds ago. Starlin Caba instantly slots in as the number 3 prospect for the Marlins, and the entire farm system for the Marlins has completely been revamped because of Peter Bendix. I mean, he's been making trades left and right. Everyone is in play right now, even Sandy Alcantara. I'm going to say that. Is it Alantra? It's Alcantara. Sorry. Starrin has absolutely no pop thus far in his young minor league career, but he puts the ball in play. He takes his walks, and he can wreak havoc on the bases. So that's kind of the theme for the two prospects that are going back to the Marlins. They can play their position, and they're really, really fast. Same for the 21-year-old outfield prospect, Marion Boyd. Now, if I say their age, they might not be that exact age right now, but that's going to be their age for the 2025 season. So remember that context. Marion Boyd is pretty much the exact same story as Starrin. Absolutely no pop to begin his manly career, but maybe they can grow into their bodies and put on some muscle, but Boyd can flat-out motor around the bases as well. He doesn't walk as much as Starrin, but hey, Miami, they are simply looking for tools, EA. It guys to form a super team in the future with the power guys that they acquired with the Division de Los Santos and Agustin Ramirez from the Yankees. They're trying to get some auxiliary pieces around the big power bats that they've acquired. And, yeah, that's basically it. Let's talk about the Phillies. Now, the Phillies actually picked up two different players. I'll talk about 27-year-old catcher Paul MSH. Sorry. Again, I've never heard of these guys before. Paul McIntosh, he is a solid bat for a catching prospect last year. He had 12 home runs and a 118 WRC plus. That's just another version of Ops plus, don't overcomplicate it. But at Ablea, again, a 120-ish WRC plus 12 home runs. We are not looking at the JT Rudo replacement. Do not get it twisted. But could he come up and have a few spot starts? Yeah. But the big fish in this trade, yes, full pun, intended a former Marlin. He's going to the Phillies now. 27-year-old starting pitcher Jesus Luzardo, he's kind of a Cody Bellinger-esque type of trade because Bellinger and Luzardo both regressed in 2024 based off their stats and their health updates. You have to remember that Luzardo and Bellinger are former top prospects, and they've shown flashes of greatness throughout their young career. So Jesus Lardo had a 3.3 ERA and a near 11 strikeouts per 9 in 2022. In 2023, he had similar strikeout numbers and a 3.6 ER. So nothing otherworldly like an MVP belly. But all of that aside, maybe that comparison doesn't even make sense. 2024 was a year to forget for Jesus Luzardo because he could not stay healthy. And because of that, he had a huge dip in his strikeout percentage. His strikeouts dropped almost 8% now, when healthy Luzardo and that fast ball slider combination is lethal. Because Jesus throws 9, 7, 9, 8, 9, 9 as a starting pitcher. I think I've seen him hit triple digits a few times throughout his young career. The change-up even looked better last year than the years prior. So when the Phillies can go Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger, Suarez, Jesus, Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez, that means no more Taijuan Walker. Christmas came early for Phillies fans. Taijuan Walker, you are a C. Colorado Rocky. Philadelphia is still very much a juggernaut. powerhouse of a team that starting rotation is absolutely bananas. And you have to remember that they've kept Andrew Painter, who could be a future Garrett Cole type of starting pitcher ace guy, Mick Ael, also a similar build, Justin Crawford, Aiden Miller. They've kept all of their top prospects who could be big-time players pretty soon. I don't know anything about Starland Caba or a Marin Boyd, so if you're a Marlins fan, I just simply want to say, dude, I'm so sorry. 2025 is going to be rough unless these guys shock the world, and they're just really good out the gate even at a young age. I don't know what the Marlins are doing, but I guess the process is trust Peter Bendix, because he used to be with the Rays, and we know what the Rays do with players that we don't really know about. So that's the Jesus Luzardo to the Phillies trade in a nutshell. Now for the moment that you've all been waiting for. Let's see a Guardians reaction to Josh Naylor being shipped out to the Diamondbacks. Currently, Josh Naylor is 27 years old, but by the time that the 2025 season comes around, he'll be 28 years old. Now let me try and explain Josh Naylor and his career thus far in Cleveland. So he was acquired from the Padres. A few years ago, he was in that big Franmil Reyes, Mike Seager trade. Also, I completely forgot about this. But that knuckleballer that we all know and love in MLB, the show Matt Waldron, he was sent from Cleveland with Mike Seager for Josh Naylor, the more you know. But anyways, Josh Naylor really struggled to begin his career with the Guardians, but in 2022, he found his SHDE. He popped off for 20 home runs and a 120 ops play. He got even better out of nowhere. He looked like a contact hitter. He hit .310 in 2023 with a whopping 130 ops plus. Then this past season, in 2024, he was an RBI machine. He had 31 home runs and 108 RBI. And defensively, I know he's not great with the range or anything like that. But take it for me, as a guy who watched Josh pretty often, he's fantastic at scoops and picks. He's great at that over there at first base. So if someone makes a bad throw, he's going to make up for it. And that's why people are asking you, make of this trade, where are you going to find that power production in your minor league system? Or do you think you're going to go grab another guy? Well, yes, the Guardians already replaced Josh Naylor before we talk about that replacement. Let's talk about the cons of Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor had an awful second half of 2024. He had a 717 ops in the second half, and that's just a smidge better than his career. Ops of 682 in the postseason. He had some of the worst at-bats I've ever seen. His pitch recognition seemingly has gotten worse every single season. He barely bats .220 versus lefties, and he's a free agent after next year. So I don't know if this is going to be a rental for the Diamondbacks, and then they give the keys to the city to a different guy. Maybe they shuffle some guys around. A lot of Guardians fans have waited and said, hey, Diamondbacks fans, a con that you have to consider, and I fluctuate with my weight a lot, so I've struggled with my weight all my life, so I'm not judging, but the Josh Naylor weight arc. It's interesting, but when Josh Naylor is going, right, and he's able to play a full 50-ish games, and maybe weight had something to do with him dipping off in the second half, he's insane, win healthy. He had 20 home runs, 58 RBI, and an 840 ops in his first 72 games last year. That's very, very good production. You can't find that very often from a 27-year-old first baseman. Maybe you don't think it's fair to criticize his weight, but when you're playing that many games at a premium position, you want to make sure that if you're investing that much into a guy that he can make it a full 162 and then into October. I think that's fair. But I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's out of bounds, my weight. I get it, so that is the Christian Walker replacement in Arizona, Josh Naylor, who is the Joshner replacement in Cleveland. Well, right now it seems to be Carlos Santana. This will be his third stint with Cleveland. He's going to be 39 years old, and he absolutely mashed lefties last year, so he's getting $12 million to most likely be a platoon DH first baseman with K.Y. Manzardo. Check this out. Santana hit .290 with a 935 ops plus versus lefties 935 ops plus. That would be insane. Sorry about that. A 935 ops versus lefties last year. He also won a Gold Glove, so he can maybe shed some wisdom onto Kyle Manzardo, who's not very good defensively. Like, hey, Kyle, this is how you pick it. This is how you go back. And this is how you know how far to get off, once you're not covering your position anymore. He's a valuable commodity. And I'm down with this Kyle Manzardo versus Carlos Santana, shedding his defensive wisdom on Manzo, and raking lefties. Yes, sir, that replaces Naylor right there. But now, let's talk about who the Guardians got in return for Josh Naylor. So the first small thing, they get a competitive B pick. It's a draft pick that's usually like a second, third, fourth round pick. Well, let's focus on 26-year-old Slade Sohn, one of my favorite